Big-name celebrities graciously visiting sick or underprivileged children is heartwarming. Like the time Johnny Depp visited the Children's Hospital, delighting all the ailing kids. Or the recent escapade of Catherine, Princess of Wales, gracing the Centre for Children with Special Education Needs. Such positively inspiring outings are an absolute delight for our hearts. Well, that is, unless we're talking about the adventures of murky Megs and hoodlum Harry. Let's get to the crunch. Back in 2021, Meghan paid a visit to one of New York's most underprivileged schools, Harlem's 123 Mahalia Jackson School. Bravo, Megs. Or was it? Did Meghan and Harry really embark on this noble endeavour out of the goodness of their hearts? Perhaps. Or for the love of children, you say? Well, it's possible. Or could it have been a clever ploy to generate some extra content for their $80 million Netflix series while simultaneously promoting Meghan's children's book?
Heartbreaking all around the world. She's becoming a royal rock star.
Bingo. This spectacle was, of course, meticulously captured for their now infamous Netflix series. But here's the kicker. All of this transpired 2 years ago. So why has this story suddenly resurfaced, you may ask? It's time for the skinny, as new emails have emerged with a rather sinister theme. During the initial planning of the school visit, Meghan reportedly insisted that the school sign a clause prohibiting anyone involved from uttering anything remotely negative about the visit. That's quite possibly one of the most bizarre requests I've ever come across. Can you imagine Catherine, Princess of Wales, demanding that the Centre for Children with Special Education Needs signs a gagging order before agreeing to an event? Sure, I'm happy to come, but if anyone dares utter a single negative word, we'll come for you and your family. It's sheer madness. With each passing day, it becomes increasingly challenging to differentiate Meghan Markle from the notorious North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Their mottos are alarmingly similar. Say or do anything to harm the regime and we'll send you home in a coffin. Nevertheless, whatever the reason, I'm sure it was simply delightful for those young, disadvantaged children to have a story read to them by someone as high profile as Kim Jong-Markle. Meghan. At the time, the school was aiding 461 students, providing shelter for struggling families and offering free meals to the majority of its students. Now, when the day of the big event finally arrived after a few weeks of meticulous organisation, the Duchess chose to grace the occasion wearing a $8,000 Loro Piana cashmere coat complemented by matching $2,300 pants, $600 Manolo Blahnik shoes, and oh, let's not forget the nearly $400,000 worth of jewellery. The grand total of her ensemble surpassed the probable lifetime earnings of any one of those children or teachers. This inspired Meghan's favourite tabloid paper, the Daily Mail, to publish an article explaining why they believe the 40-year-old Duchess hasn't quite mastered the art of reading the room. So Meghan finally settled down in front of these underprivileged children and commenced reading from her own book, The Bench.
This part is the dedication, and I wrote, "For the man and the boy who make my heart go pump pump."
And it may have been at this very moment when the school staff grasped the true purpose for that gagging order. For Meghan's book is, to put it bluntly, a pile of tosh, a load of nonsense, with a shockingly low rating of 2.2 stars on Google, and that is not out of 3. Not even the late, great Robin Williams, God rest his soul, could transform this literary mediocrity into something remotely entertaining.
I want to run for politics right now. It's like, at this point, taking over the presidency is like saying, here's the Titanic. It's doing quite well, really. I hope you don't mind. Good luck. I'm in the boat.
As one person aptly put it, those who give this book more than 1 star have either never read their child a true children's book or don't have a child. As someone who has not quite read the book myself, reading the reviews, I have come to understand that the content seems to be somewhat lacking. Whether or not you have a child doesn't seem to be the problem. It is clear as day that this book is really quite rubbish. Another person said, "Ugh, I want the last 2 minutes of my life back." What absolute mind-numbing nonsense, an absolute waste of time and resources. We have come to understand that Meghan has somewhat of an excellent skill in wasting time and resources when it comes to, for example, her Archwell Foundation, in which she manages to only commit to 1 hour of work per week and do absolutely diddly squat with the funding, or in the circumstances of her podcast, where she had a substantial amount of team members working for her and managed to create one of the worst podcasts that has been released in recent times. It only survived one season, and one season with absolutely fabulous guests. So how she managed to make it rubbish is impressive. It's an impressive feat. Someone else said, "My kids didn't enjoy this. They were snoring after the 4th page. This is not a kid's book." You know, kids seem like they're generally entertained by very little. I've heard stories of many a child making a game out of a cardboard box. It cannot be that difficult to make a kid's book somewhat entertaining for a child, especially if you are a mother of 2. From what we're reading here, she could have done better. Someone else said, "Totally devoid of fun and fantasy. Not sure of the intended audience, but it's not for adults or children." Devoid of fun and fantasy sounds like an absolute pleasure to read. Actually, I am. The more I read these comments, the more I am wanting to read it just out of pure curiosity. Someone else said, "Poorly written. I would give it a 0 if I could. Very boring. I would not read it to my students. They would not last 2 pages without melting down." And my personal favourite comment of all the comments I read so far, "Total vomit. Pretentious hurdy-gurdy claptrap. They say everyone has at least one book in them. Not so in this case." I get so much pleasure out of reading that one, mainly because you're at least being honest and then telling people to spend their good hard-earned dollars somewhere useful, somewhere that's actually going to do something. If you are feeling blue, I would urge you to go and read the reviews of The Bench on Google. It's a laugh a minute. The silver lining in all of this is that we know those Harlem children with very little to be thankful for finally went home that night filled with gratitude that they never have to sit through Meghan Markle's crappy book ever again.
Mr. Malcolm Ecstasy asks of you, Meghan, whether in hindsight it was classless, self-absorbed and downright unfair to subject the children in a Harlem school to your book, The Bench.
Meghan Markle's fun-free children's book may put an entire generation off reading.
Hit the like button if you think that Meghan's gagging order was a step too far, and subscribe to help our Crown family blossom. See you down in the comments.